You are listening to the Commonwealth Club of California. My name is Kevin O'Malley. I'm chairman of the Business and Leadership Forum here at the Commonwealth Club. Our program tonight is Moth Spray Controversy Update, narrated by Christi Dames, and now we're going to turn it over for questions and answers.
I have a question for Roy. How was LBAM classified as a major pest in the first place, and how's the reclassification effort going?
It was originally, it ended up on a pesticide restriction list in 1984. And what I've been told by people who have been in meetings like that, groups of agricultural people get together and say, what bugs are over here but aren't over here? And so this is how we have to develop our restriction list. Now, there might also be specific trade issues. So, for example, New Zealand was just coming on in the early 1980s. It was just coming on with apple production, and whether or not that, and citrus production, and whether or not that created some type of trade advantage to restrict them from coming here because of the potential for LBAM. It took them probably a good 25 years to develop good integrated pest management programs to control for LBAM to a degree that the USDA would readily accept. So there might be trade issues, but basically it was arbitrarily put on a list because it was over there on crops, but it wasn't over here. At least to our knowledge, it wasn't over here. As far as the reclassification efforts go, they were denied. USDA denied our petition for reclassification, but this is a little bit interesting story, is that they denied our petition for reclassification, and they submitted their response to our petition to the National Academy of Science and asked the National Academy of Science to tell them if they addressed the issues that we raised adequately. The National Academy of Science review consisted of USDA people, entomology experts, agricultural experts around the world, and they came back with one of the most scathing reviews of USDA's science, basically saying, no, they did not do a thorough and balanced review of the petitions. Natural Resource Defenses Council, Margaret Reeves here, they also put in a petition, and that's how they answered that they have not done a thorough and balanced review of the petitions, that the science that they used to project their economic loss due to LBAM were flawed and in some cases inaccurate, that in some cases their science was incomprehensible, and that they would do well in reviewing other alternatives to eradication and other management practices similar to those that are already employed in New Zealand and other countries where LBAM exists but is not an agricultural problem. So as far as now is concerned, this time frame, there is no reclassification on the table because they've already denied that petition. The only hope that I could see that they could stop this program could be stopped. And as Carol said, being a control program, this means it goes on forever and ever, amen, in our communities. And that means potentially spraying in our communities and putting this stuff on telephone poles around our communities. In Santa Cruz, they projected 2,000 telephone poles per square mile to put this pesticide pheromone splat on telephone poles. So this is a very real invasion of our communities with something that we don't know the long-term and residual effects of. But as of now, the only way that I can see that this program can stop is with the lawsuit against USDA.
Another question?
Good evening, Dr. Sandy Ross. I have two comments and a question. Regarding endocrine disruption, what you've said, Roy, is very true. And in fact, Theo Colburn of the Endocrine Disruption Exchange, TEDx, has an excellent video on their website. You can also get it. It's called The Male Predicament. And Chris, I was really laughing. I always think about how are you going to get that little LBAM to roll up a redwood frond to make a sleeping bag. My main question is for Caroline, and it has to do with the twist ties. We know that one of their ways of getting the pheromone out, now that they presumably aren't going to be doing the aerial spraying, is to put lots and lots of twist ties on people's trees. Now, they're supposed to saturate the air for 30 days, so in some ways, it's going to be worse in the field than it would be on the 3 days a month spraying. And how do we get people to understand that not only is this looming, but it could be very, very bad for their health, and to protect us all, for the children, ourselves, and everyone? Thank you.
Maybe we should quickly just say what a twist tie is for folks that don't know. So the idea is that this is the sex attractant pheromone of the apple moth, and what you're trying to do is confuse the males so it can't find the females. So you want to get the pheromone in the air everywhere so the males are wandering around in a daze instead of heading for the females. So the pheromone is, the synthetic version of the pheromone is put in little twist ties that are sort of like the thing that you use to close a plastic bag, but not really. And you can just twist those around the branch of a tree or wherever you want to put them, and they slowly release the pheromone over a period of time. And I think that there's no question that airplanes flying overhead, no matter what they're spraying, is a major disruption of our lives. My youngest daughter was born while eradication helicopters flew over the roof of my house, and I can say that it has an impact on your life. And a little twist tie on a tree is probably never going to have that same kind of impact that airplanes flying overhead day after day after day is going to have. But I think that there's things that people do understand. People do understand that our government shouldn't be spending $75 million if there's no reason to be doing this. I think people do understand that a control program with no end in sight maybe needs to be rethought. People definitely understand about the lack of information that we have about these chemicals, that there's so much we don't know. Inert ingredients are a great example of that. I think one of the things that people are so aware of right now, I mean, when DDT was first used, people didn't understand that it could cause birds not to be able to lay healthy eggs. And if you had said that, you know, sort of out loud in 1955 or something, you'd probably get laughed off the stage or whatever. And the history of pesticide use is like that. Every 5-10 years, there's a new problem that no one had thought of before, and up it comes. So, you know, maybe at this point we don't have a smoking gun to point at these twist ties, but what we do know is that pesticides are chemicals that are designed to kill or harm living things. There's enough similarities between us and an apple moth that, you know, I think we all worry about that. And some of us are willing to use the pesticides because we see that there's some kind of a benefit. But in the case of the apple moth, the benefits are so ambiguous and so uncertain that I think many people would agree that it's just not worth it. Even if we don't have a smoking gun, to subject ourselves to this chemical when there's really nothing that we have to gain from it.
What we have to know is that they have the legal authority to walk into your yard and put these up all over your yard. And at Jared Huffman's hearing a few years ago, he asked, what are we talking about? Are we talking about onesies and twosies? The ag guy says, no, think of a Christmas tree, of the number that would be in the yard. But don't worry, you'll get used to it. It'll be just like walking over your dog that you do every day. You won't even notice it after a week. You know, these are by the thousands in every one of our yards. And again, I'm with Caroline. There's no smoking gun on twist ties, but The unknown's always worse than, is the worst part of it.
I want to add just one comment about what we can do to try to get people interested in this issue and help inform them and help put pressure in a way that actually can make a real change. I'm going to say something that could, offend large groups of people, but I'll say it anyway because I'm from Northern California and I will offend myself by saying it. But, I worry sometimes that if you take only an environmental approach or only a health approach, that it can come off as, just imagine what Fox News would say. They would say, oh, those wacko Northern California, they're drinking kombucha and, not wearing socks, right? And that's, somehow, a reason for putting the idea down. But what they can't say, and what I worry about, what I've heard sort of the counter-argument being is, well, we need to spray because it's going to help industry. But if we can actually take that argument and say, actually, because there's a discrepancy in trade policy between what we're allowing New Zealand farmers to do versus us suppressing our own domestic farmers here, and we're actually spending tax dollars to hurt our own domestic farmers and give actual, some sort of better preference to those international farmers, then that argument can't be taken away. And I think that one of the things, I find that as a lowest common denominator argument, to be honest, and saying, yes, there are the health issues, there's the environmental issues, all those things, but there's also this trade issue that our government should not be supporting. And that's something that I think is something that anybody from any political spectrum can generally understand.
Yeah, beautiful.
For the specific chemicals that are in the checkmate that was sprayed over Santa Cruz and Monterey, what is known about how long a period of time those chemicals stay in the environment after they're sprayed, and how far do these chemicals work their way into the food chain? And one more thing I'd be curious to know is, if the chemicals do in fact work their way into the food chain, what is the potential for those chemicals working their way the whole way into species that we consume, edible animals and plants that we consume? Could we end up with checkmate chemicals in foods that we buy at the grocery store eventually? I'd like to know what the potential is, if anyone's studied it.
I think the checkmate product was designed to be effective for 30, 60, or 90 days. So that's the time period that the people who developed the product planned for it to be able to persist in the environment. For
the pheromone portion of it.
One of the things that becomes really obvious if you study the nerdy stuff about pesticides for a long time is that how long something lasts in the environment is incredibly variable. So under certain kinds of conditions, it might last for 3 days. Under other kinds of conditions, the exact same collection of chemicals might last for 6 months. And it depends on so many things: temperature, light, weather conditions, and you can just go on and on and on. So I think that the answers to your questions are probably really difficult to give accurate answers to. But I think what you're getting at is, are these things becoming part of our environment and part of us? And I think what we can say from our experience in the last 50 years of using synthetic pesticides is yes. I mean, look at pesticides right now. The U.S. Geological Survey goes out and samples water all across the country, and they find pesticides in virtually every sample that they take. If you look at air, across the country, somewhere between 60 and 70% of air samples that get taken in monitoring programs have pesticides in them. When the USDA tests food for pesticide residues, about 60, 70%, somewhere in there, of the samples that they test have pesticides. So our sort of pesticide addiction, if that's what you want to call it, means that pesticides are everywhere.
Thank you. One more question here. Great.
First, my name is Margaret Reeves from the Pesticide Action Network, and I want to thank all the panelists. This has really been an excellent forum, and thank you to Commonwealth Club. Just one comment I wanted to make. Again, thanks for bringing up all the myriad issues here. And the question about trade is not at all a trivial one. And I just wanted to mention that one of the arguments given from USDA is that, well, if we don't quarantine, then we risk trade relationships with our partners, Mexico and Canada, for example. And some communications with individuals in the relevant departments in Mexico and Canada have indicated, in fact, that if the U.S. were to change its position vis-a-vis LBAM and quarantine, that in fact they would be willing, or at least there would certainly be a possibility for discussion of them changing their trade policies. So it's not an absolute certainty that if we do not respond, then we are just out of those important trade partners. But those issues are really, really important. Thank you.
Yeah, to say that the United States is the largest market that people want to ship produce into is going to somehow not be a leader in trade policy around these things is, living in a naive world. So thank you. That's a great point.
We specifically talked to agricultural experts in Australia who confirm that they can ship anywhere in the world without any problem whatsoever with regards to LBAM or any of the other leaf rollers that they have. So Margaret's point is exactly right on, is that this was somebody's bad dream within CDFA or USDA to do this type of program when they really didn't need to. They can develop the same types of trade agreements that New Zealand and Australia have been working with for 30 years and be able to ship anywhere in the world with the same type of inspections that are in New Zealand now, which if you're looking at the actual integrated pest management literature, says is as best cost neutral, and in many cases saves money because you actually save money on buying pesticides that you no longer need because you're developing a natural system with natural predators in a healthy system.
There's no eradication, there's no quarantine.
Right.
So it's, yeah.
We have one last audience question. I'm going to ask one final question to wrap it up. And
was one thing we haven't brought up, and that's the irradiated moths. My husband's an entomologist, and talking with him and his colleagues, I want to tell you that the female LBAM is not going to go for the sort of weak, wimpy, irradiated guy with a big orange dot on his back. Plus the fact that the female mates and mates and mates until she's inseminated. So they could put any number of irradiated moths out there, and it's not going to do it. She's going to find what she needs.
This is an important point, because the other part of this program is what's called sterile insect technique, where they are irradiating LBAM, breeding them by the millions, and irradiating them, making them infertile, supposedly, and then going to release those into the environment. Now, there actually are studies where you feed cats irradiated cat food, and they get sick and get leukemia and things like that. And so one of the risks that we face is the birds and the bats, which are two of the primary natural predators of LBAM, along with spiders and flies. Everything eats LBAM. It's like spam, really, is what it is. But to release literally billions of irradiated moths into our environment without any environmental impact review on that, to me, is incomprehensible as well. But that is their newest strategy for controlling LBAM, along with coming into our yards with all their pesticides.
wow. So indeed, we still have some work to do then, what I'm hearing. So what I'd like to do in wrapping this up is I'd like for each of you to briefly say the partnership that you see happening, whether it's between you and someone else, or a partnership you've seen, one you see that's new and working, and one that you'd really like to see happen. What is if there was the partnership of people coming together of your dreams, what would that look like?
So I actually have 3 different partnerships that I want to talk about, but I'll try to be really quick.
Yeah, we need to be...
One is that environmental impact report that I mentioned several times. is a subject of litigation right now, and it's an exciting partnership because it involves both some of the community groups that form to oppose the apple moth program, as well as sort of larger and more established environmental groups, as well as the cities of Albany, Richmond, and Berkeley. So there's a great partnership there. Another great partnership that I've been involved with, it directly grew out of the concerns about these inert ingredients in apple moth pesticides. Right now, amazingly enough, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has said it's going to look at options for disclosing more information about these unidentified chemicals. And here in California, taking positions in support of that process, we have the California Attorney General, the California Assembly, the California Senate, OEHA, which is the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, California Department of Public Health, as well as a string of other organizations. I mean, I could keep going for a really long time. So that's another really exciting partnership. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that I think it's come up a few times here that really over time, that 160 million pounds of pesticides that are used in California every year, the people who bear the biggest burden of that pesticide use are people who either work in agriculture or live in agricultural communities. And in 2002, the state gave counties the right to set up protection zones around schools to protect kids from pesticides. And this year, there's a bill in the legislature to make those protections statewide. And because of the bringing in urban people from across the state, instead of that bill just coming from agricultural areas, actually the author of the bill was from Oakland. And we had the California PTA and the California Nurses Association and a number of other organizations like that supporting the bill. So when you asked about partnerships of our dreams, that one, like the bill did not succeed, but the partnership of my dreams would be that partnership would grow and get that bill through the legislature next year.
Nice, thank you. Chris?
Well, on the farmer side, I mean, we're really happy that the farmers that we work with are responding positively to this and getting more and more involved. We think that's a good sign, and we think it's a very sign of a healthy democracy too, and a participatory one. So we're happy about that. Our partnership with Preston and with Kaiser has been one around sustainable agriculture and not necessarily directly related to LBAM, but sustainability in general, which I think is a wonderful thing to see that large organizations are moving in a direction of changing the world, and that we can be part of that is a real honor. So with that, I'll pass it to you.
I mean, the partnerships I'd like to see in my dreams are at a personal level. First, I'd like to see in each family partnerships of us with our chef's knives, 2 cutting boards, and a salad spinner. I think that those may be some of the most important public health tools we have. Second, I'd like to see partnerships of parents and their kids and teaching the kids how to cook early on. And then lastly, I guess if I could think big, it would be that we'd have way more than just 3% of the food eaten in this country be grown in a way that's good for us, good for our kids, good for the earth, and good for the people that grow it. Right now it is 3%. If we could push that up, if we created the demand, and each of us partnered with the farmers that grow our food, then we'd be talking about food sheds, regional food sheds that would coalesce into a larger national food shed, and those are the partnerships I'd like to see for the long term.
Wow, thank you.
For me, it's people, people, and people. What I learned from LBAM is that it was individual peoples that stopped the eradication. It was individual people that stopped the spraying. It wasn't entrenched bureaucracies. It wasn't entrenched organizations with long history of environmental activism. It was new groups popping up just out of commitment, dedication, love of environment, love of human health, love of individual, as far as the right to health, which we are protected by the Constitution of California to attain is the right of health. That's what really stopped this. There's only two ways to affect in my opinion, two primary ways to affect the legislative world, and that is with a lot of voters or a lot of money. None of us are going to have a lot of money to throw at the politicians and the political process. What we can do is generate a lot of bodies, a lot of impassioned mothers, and I see the partnership as being mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, and children, and putting our children at the center to say, we can't allow this to happen to these kids. Where we have the responsibility to protect our children, and we can't allow this to happen. And if we really own that responsibility, that we have stewardship with the earth and stewardship of ourselves and our children, then we can make the change. Everything else is academic. We have to come together as a unified, body of caring individuals that are willing to stay up till 1, 2, and 3 in the morning, like many of the people here had to do. We had to work 2 jobs. This was a second full-time job for many of us for 3 years. We have to be willing to sacrifice individually for the benefit of our children, future generations. So people, people, and people.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Kevin O'Malley, our host of the Commonwealth Club.
Okay, well, thank you to all our panelists, and thank you to our audience here. We do have one more comment that I would like to add tonight. As I mentioned in the beginning of the program, Yannick Philips was an integral part in putting this whole program together, and is a very important partner for us. I know she would like to add a comment about her vision of partnership, so I'd like to ask her to come up for a moment, please, and give her a hand again.
Thank you. I want to thank all 4 of you. It's been great listening to you. Again, my name's Yannick Philips, and I'm the founder of a new organization, and it's called Mock Sonoma, Mothers Advocating for Children's Health. And I'm a huge supporter of our farmers and our sustainable agriculture. And being a mother of 4 children, I tried to figure out how I could partner with our farmers and with mothers, and so I kind of started this group, which is brand new. But I had kind of a question for all 4 of you. I don't know if you can all 4 answer it. Some of you have kind of already answered it. But how do you each see specifically mothers involved in each of your personal projects, your businesses, your organizations, in promoting a sustainable agriculture for California and hopefully for the whole United States at one point? And thank you again for being here.
I guess I can address that. So I have 3 kids, and we've taken them all through the co-op nursery school system here in the city. So half of my workforce, I think, are actually co-op moms who, have now transferred to working at Fruit Guys. So we have a very family atmosphere, and I think that's just, our perspective, and that we've always wanted to keep it that way. But it's great to have sort of a family dynamic in our business, because we think it then transfers into the relationships we have with the farmers or the community projects that we do as well. And so we want to foster those kinds of relationships for the long term.
I think when you work with toxic chemicals, you discover that they affect everybody. But I think moms, especially when we're pregnant and when we're nursing, kind of feel it more acutely and maybe more deep down inside, more inspired to action and more strong action, because and I know dads care about their kids every bit as much as moms do, but that physical connection that you have when you're pregnant and nursing gives you kind of an extra determination that I think is really transforming and powerful.
It wasn't part of LBAM, but one of the best models that I've seen is actually a health food chain in Colorado and New Mexico called Vitamin Cottage. And it was started by an old elderly couple who went door to door selling organic produce, eventually opened up their first store, and then now they have, I don't know, 30, 40 stores, whatever. But in each of their stores, they have a certified nutritionist. Part of their program is they bring school kids through, and they teach them about refined sugar and refined flour products and pesticides in foods and the benefits of organic, and not just the health benefits but the environmental benefits. And if we can start that, models like that, with our mothers supporting programs like this and bringing their kids to the health food stores, which are all over the place, and saying this is why we pay a premium for shopping here. It's for your health, our health, the world's health, for your dog and cat's health. So I think that's one of the best models that I've ever seen, because in one day you can affect 70, 80 children's lives by bringing a class through a produce store and talking about these things.
In my 4 decades in medicine, I've been in obstetrics and gynecology, so I've developed an incredible respect for the mothers in my practice. I've learned from them over my years, and have learned that it is the mothers that not only teach me, but teach our communities in so many ways. And I think as the mothers connect through your network and others like it, just maybe we can move the whole society.
I'd like to ask Christi if she has a comment on that too.
I just want to thank everybody for being here, for all the leadership, for all the folks that have worked through this for so long and so many hours and have brought so much to so many people. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on this stage. Thank you, everyone in this audience. And I'm really excited about the positive new things that we have at our disposal to do, and all the different ways between Facebook and Twitter and everything else that we can use to reach as many people as we can possibly get to. So thanks very much, and go forward in good health.
And with that, I will close this program celebrating over 120 years of enlightened discussion.